Hello, everybody, and
Hello.
welcome. Thank you for joining me and Fran. Wait, no, that's not Fran. Fran is helping someone today in person, just being her normal, wonderful self of helping people. And so Crystalyn has decided to join me and in Fran's stead. And so thank you, Crystalyn, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, Crystalyn, you have some experience with kids with special needs. So, tell us a little bit for anyone who's joining us what your experience is.
Goodness, we'll have to go way back in time. So basically, and I have to go way, way back in time. A lot of people don't realize that I had a lot of leg issues when I was younger. So in second grade, it was really noticeable. I only could walk on my tiptoes. So I looked like a very tall ballerina constantly. And actually, I had a teacher that was honestly my biggest bully about it.
Oh,
And it was horrible. I actually don't even remember her name. I've actually kind of blocked it out. I got an award at the end of that class year saying the best thing I ever did in that classroom was walk on my tiptoes.
oh,
Oh, yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So that always has stayed in my forefront and has been a pursuer of my drive in life. And yes, people motivate you in different ways that you'll never know. But like I said, I've like spaced out her name because I don't want to give her that recognition anyway.
Absolutely.
And so that's probably when we started noticing the problems, and it didn't go away. And it was about after my largest growth spurt, because I'm 6'1". So in season between sixth grade and seventh grade, they realized those tendons weren't going to change. And so they tried to stretch me for 6 months at Shriners Hospital in St. Louis. I lived in Sikeston originally for most of my life, but then I was in Terre Haute this time. And we drove all the way from Terre Haute, Indiana to Shriners. Wow. And I had to stay 6 months at Shriners Hospital. So that meant a whole gambit of individuals that were different than I was. Mm-hmm. We had individuals who were constantly in a bed. I was in a wheelchair. Individuals with all different intellectual disabilities that were there, burn victims. And so I spent 6 months playing with all these kids, I was sixth grade, so 12-ish. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that started a change in me. And right after that, I started volunteering in the high school level, not in the junior high, because I was kind of mad. I had to wear braces for 2 years, and those teenage years was horrible.
Yeah, I bet.
I was a swimmer, so it really slowed down what I was doing at that time. And also, I went to a school that was really large. So getting back to the level and caliber I needed to get, I didn't have enough time frame to get where I used to be. But it's still a big component of sports. And so I started volunteering for Special Olympics. And I was in Terre Haute, Indiana, helped one of the state tournaments at the time. I didn't know that at the time. I just knew they needed volunteers. So I would go out and volunteer. Then when I was going to high school and college, I started working at what was considered Michael's House, which was at the time a lot of individuals were dropped off at nursing homes that did have an intellectual disability. And these individuals had lived there most of their life, and they were way older than I was. Most were 40, 50, 60 back in the time when doctors had them dropped off there. And so I started working with that population, which then led into working in group homes while I was going to college because I could sleep during part of the care. So I could study and do things. Ended up running summer homes. So I ran 3 different homes in Indianapolis for a long time.
Wow.
And then after that, I still was volunteering with Special Olympics and was getting my athletes in the different homes into Special Olympics, because even back in 2000s, there was not the stigmas and the conversations weren't happening what is afforded to my son now. A lot has changed in this short period of time. But I will say the turnover, the burnout, it's a tough tough job. So then I ran to preschool world. So then I taught pre-K for several years. And so Special Olympics and individuals with intellectual disabilities has always been a big component of my life. Primarily autism spectrum is where I had dealt most with. And now my son has been a member for 10 years, and now I get to play as a parent, as a coach, and I'm also on the family committee for Special Olympics Illinois. So that's kind of my story of how I've gotten to where I'm at.
All right. So it sounds like it's been a lifelong journey pretty much. And
pretty much.
So I want, now that we've talked about the fact that you're on the parent committee, tell our audience what you and I are collaborating on for March. Are you allowed to tell them yet?
We're allowed to say it.
Okay.
So in March, we're still kind of working out what we're calling the group. It's the Special Olympic Illinois Families has come. I think we're going to maybe like a family forum is where we're going. We still don't have the full name. It's a new song and dance that we're doing. But having Alex and walking into schools by yourself is scary and intimidating. And the education out there online is sometimes right and sometimes wrong, and each state is different. So I've asked Michelle to come talk with our parents on figuring out these little 3-letter words that affects all of education, IEP. So Michelle's going to come in and help navigate this whole IEP world for other families. So their children come in with an equal footing and get the education that they deserve, actually.
Yeah, I'm very excited that you asked me. Is there an echo when I'm talking?
It could be my house. I don't know. There's a slight one.
I'm wondering if it's my headphones today, because now it seems like it's okay. So it could have just been that I was having problems with the microphone and the connection earlier. So it seems like it's gone now. So if you're not hearing it, it was probably just feedback in my ears. Okay. I'm sorry about that, everybody. So yeah, I'm super excited to be working with the Special Olympics organization, and can't wait for that to happen March 24th and 31st. So we will have 2 nights that we're going to do it. An hour each time, I think, is what we decided. So if you're part of the Special Olympics organization, I look forward to possibly meeting you in the next month or so and giving you some information about IEPs. I did a presentation last night with a lawyer, and my half of the presentation was talking about IEPs, and her half of the presentation was talking about special needs legal planning before turning age 18, at age 18, and then after age 18. And hopefully someday I will get Ashley on with me for #NoLimits, because a lot of what she shared last night, the people that attended said, this is such great information. And we only had, because I did it as a private event, people had to register to attend. And so we had about 40 or 45 people that were registered. But the consensus was, a lot of people don't even know that they need to, whether they have typically or non-typically developing children, they need to have a will, they need to have a plan in place. And it truly is, Ashley's words were, a demonstration of love to provide that for your child. And so there was a lot of good information last night. I'm not going to be sharing that sort of legal stuff, but I will be sharing the IEP stuff with the Special Olympics. So I really, again, I appreciate that opportunity to do that in March. So speaking of Special Olympics, you kind of alluded to it a little bit. So how has that changed? Because when I was first hearing about Special Olympics, when I was in high school in the 80s, it was 1980s. That was a long time ago, the 1970s. It was more, or maybe solely for people with intellectual disabilities, severe intellectual disabilities.
Yes.
And it seemed at the time that there was just maybe an event, 3 or 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. But having interviewed you and Alex on #NoLimits, found out that it's a completely different, what am I trying to say, formation now than what it used to be.
It's evolved quite a lot. So we just celebrated 2 years ago the 50th anniversary, and seeing that it started and actually had roots in Southern Illinois. A lot of people did not realize that. So there was a professor that wanted to help with the population down in the Carbondale area. And so that's where it started, with Shriver having this conversation, knowing the experience that this gentleman was having with individuals with intellectual disabilities. And Shriver had a sister that did have a disability, and she wanted more for her sister and everybody. So Special Olympics evolved with just being a sporting event at Soldier Field over 50 years ago. This year should be about 52. My goodness. So that's where it started, and that's where it stayed for quite a while. And then lately, there is a push for, which long time coming, and I'm glad that Illinois has really taken the lead. I can't speak for all the states. I know worldwide, internationally, and national level they are. Every state is different, but Illinois has been pushing for having athletes leaders. No longer just being athletes, but to lead. And they're like, if we are not inclusive ourselves in this organization, how can we preach inclusion to everybody else? So
good point.
They said, we have to take this stance now. So they started the Athlete Global Messenger program, which now has evolved to the Athlete Leader program. So Alex is on what's considered the Athlete Leadership Council. He also goes and speaks to different organizations, but as leaders, they get together on what would they like to see as an athlete that comes from Special Olympics. It also has It also has revolved where they're listening to their voice. And I can't say exactly what year it did start, but I do know for the northern part of Illinois, the southern part, and the central part of Illinois, they actually have board members that are on the board of directors of Special Olympics that are athletes.
That's so cool.
And they want that voice. They want to listen and to be open. So going from just being games where you got medals, now every division is different in every sport. So you have individuals who could be severely with a physical disability, intellectual disability, to higher functioning like Alex. Alex is a rock star in his running, and he will not compete against someone who's at a beginning stage. They'd want to make sure everything of that is fair and equivalent. So they do, and a lot of people didn't realize that. They thought that they just go and play or go compete, but no, it's all divided out into different divisions. And to watch the change of my own child. So, Alex shared a story from what Alex was 10 years ago to now, to even speaking. He didn't talk. Now he talks all the time. Like, you go from being confident, and the Special Olympics sports helped that, but it was more the leadership part. And it also allowed him to have mentors. So he has an individual who is a very dear family friend. I would probably say that Eric is his best friend, who is 10 years older than him, who was an athlete on the board of directors. He was an athlete for, I'm changing into this world because I want to call them global messengers, and we just changed all the lingo. So I'm like, leadership. So he was also in leadership before Alex was, and he has taken Alex under his wing. He had gone to college before Alex had. And so having that net in this group, it's more than just athletics. It's leadership, it's friendship, it's guidance. And they understand the world different than what I can ever have a conversation with Alex.
Right.
He can have conversations with these athletes in these forums and get to talk about their problems that they all understand. So that to me is the new way, I think, how Special Olympic has evolved. And also they just created a great partnership with United Airlines. So many of our athletes are working at Chicago O'Hare with United, and their spokespersons with United. I mean, trying to get the education and resources for jobs. So a big part of Special Olympics that people don't realize is that there are classes for making your resume, speaking, and that's what the athlete leadership program has pulled in. All this skills that they're learning through this program translates into the business world. So that's the new, to me, revamp of how Special Olympics is being involved in 2021.
That is so incredible. Yeah, like I said, when I was in high school, I want to say there was an event at Eastern Illinois University, and I went and I volunteered and I helped. But in talking with you and in talking with many other people locally, and also, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch it, but I interviewed a gentleman in Australia a few weeks ago, and he talked about the fact that there is a Special Olympics Worlds event.
Yes.
And, when I attended the Special Olympics, like I said, it was just a few times a year and everybody competed, and, there weren't levels. But now there are competition levels. And Michael, the gentleman from Australia, talked about the fact that there wasn't a powerlifting team structure in Australia. And so he is developing one so that, the team can compete at the local level and then go to the state level and then go to the national level and, and all those layers in there. I mean, to me now, it seems incredibly comparable to high school sports or college level sports.
And bringing on to high school level. So there are what they call unified champion schools that do compete. So COVID has changed a lot of these things.
Right.
But with basketball, soccer, and bass fishing, there are high school Special Olympic teams that compete in high school level in a unified school for championships.
That's so cool.
And then there is in the United States, we do have the national games. We have several Clinton County individuals that did compete in the national level. There are the World Games for winter and for summer sports. There's an individual that is an assistant coach with Westland. I assume he still is now. He was a teammate of Alex's that has gone to 2 World Games, one swimming.
Wow.
It's one of his very dear friends went to that same games with his friend, and they were in Ireland at that time, several years ago. And that is Alex's dream. That's his goal. Illinois does limit you to usually 1 event per. So it'd be nationals, summer games, or winter games, because they want to make sure that all the athletes can get a chance, because currently they're working on the delegation for winter games. And there's 108 slots. There's over 5.5 Special Olympic athletes in the United States.
Oh my God.
For 108 spots. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing. And I don't know the formula of how they decide, but the individuals also have to be able to go with usually like a 4-to-1 ratio with their coaches. They have to be over a certain age, because they went to Abu Dhabi for summer games. I do know we have a young lady who is in the St. Clair area that did get to go, and she won several gold medals in Abu Dhabi.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like, you talk about no limit, no limit. It is mind-boggling, and people have no idea. They have no idea.
No.
And I was involved just like you, and I had no idea. Like,
right.
It's a new shiny facet of information we learn every day. So
that is amazing. So Well, let me just, we've had a couple comments here. And for those of you who are joining us, please say hi, or say, hashtag live, or somehow let us know that you're here. So this was a few minutes ago when you were talking about the changes and all the opportunities that are there. And then she thinks it's televised. Is it televised?
They just started that, correct? Yes. That is brand
so
new.
amazing.
So we got to watch Abu Dhabi this year and see individuals that Alex has known or met, or, now with the virtual world of life that, he gets to meet people in a whole different forum. So yes, they are televised. It was covered by ESPN. It was amazing. We also had a unified soccer that happened for the 50th. So we had teams that Alex had to learn to talk. They're trying to do with a Google Translator and things like that. From Japan, from China, from Ireland, from all over so many from South America to the Middle East. And then they do, just like they do in the normal Olympics, they trade pin. So you have your US little small, like I know Disney does it too. You have your little pins. And so you're going up to these delegates from other countries and they're trading pins back and forth.
Oh my gosh.
So we got to go to do the soccer one. Alex does not play soccer, but he got to go and speak and be a part of that 2-week event. And it was just magical. And we were trying to get many people, to know about it because it was going to be televised. And I think that was a start, to finally people notice that these individuals are amazing athletes. They are amazing people. You just got to take the time. And hopefully that will shine through more.
Yeah, that is how far it has come is just incredible. So you travel a lot, or maybe Alex, I don't know if you're always with him, both with Special Olympics things, but also he's a junior college athlete. Right. And, he travels a lot with that. You and I were talking the other day about, the need for flexibility in a person's personality.
Yes.
And Alex seems pretty flexible. As far as my knowledge of him, right? Right.
I mean, when Dakota days, he was not.
No, exactly. I was going to say, when I met him 10-ish years ago, when you talked about, the difference in him, it's huge.
Yes.
I mean, when I first met him out at Shakota, he was very timid, very quiet. And now, I mean, obviously he was on the show a couple months back, but even if I see him somewhere, hey, Shelly, how's it going?
Yes.
So talk to us about that. Talk to us about, that, does that play a factor in choosing a delegate maybe, to do some of the world events, but how did that, even just as your own family, like, how does that affect you? I mean, moving time zones is difficult for anybody. But does that do something different to Alex? And then you have another son who participates in Special Olympics, right?
I have two actually that do currently. So you have to be 8 and older to be considered. So young athletes is until 8, and then 8 and older until 100, whatever, is Special Olympics.
Okay.
So Anthony Aiden play with COVID. Special Olympics decided it needed to pivot and started esports. A lot of colleges are big into the esports.
Yeah.
The Special Olympics pivoted and started the esports program. And Anthony has been Alex's bocce, which is a game I had to learn. I had no idea what bocce was. I now know there's bocce courts in the hill. So I guess it's an Italian more so sport.
Yeah, we learned about bocce. Heather Holthouse joined me on No Limits a little while back, and she said that one was her favorite. So she explained that to us a little bit. I really had no idea what that was either prior to talking to Heather.
I learned from Heather, actually. And I had to learn from Heather. She was one of the older teammates that took Alex under her wing. They're both Clinton County Cats. So Yes, we learned how to play that game with Miss Heather's guidance. And so those opportunities has allowed his siblings to get, and that's what they're also working on. They're working on unified school. Edwardsville is a pretty strong unified school program, and they're trying to get more champion schools coming in where they have these individuals with intellectual disabilities paired with someone who is atypical, and it's a beautiful relationship because both sides can learn so much from each other. But Alex did, let's goodness, it was our first beginning time. So the leadership program, you kind of have to be picked a little bit. It's not something you can sign up, but you kind of in the beginning were more kind of picked, like someone says, we think you can do this program. And we had just joined Special Olympics. Alex met somebody that must have seen something in him. We don't even know when, where. We know where. We don't know who. We don't know. All of a sudden, they're like, here we are. We've done a few events. Now we're going to our first. He got gold. So now we're going to our winter event, which is my most favorite. And so sad that we're not doing it right now, which is snowshoeing for Galena. It is wonderful. Winter Games there is my favorite. So and Alex was the one who qualified. I'm his coach, and we're learning this whole event ourselves. And what's great is so many teams take you under your wings and helped guide us. And the two teams that did ended up becoming Alex's best friends on both sides. So it's amazing how that all works. So Galena at first was his first big travel somewhere for an event. It's about an 8-hour drive. If weather is not beautiful, it could be less than, but usually we always seem in February to have some great weather to try to wiggle our way there or home.
Mm-hmm.
But after that event, he went to the leadership program, and it's a pretty intense weekend. It's like speech 101. You've learned to write a speech. You learn how to do eye contact. You do have to have a coach, which he selected me to be that part of that privilege. And the coaches learn and the athletes learn. And you go through this very, very serious training. And that's kind of why someone has to kind of give a guidance too, to see if an athlete can handle this. And they felt he could. So off we went to the training. And then we did a couple of speeches, and they get a blazer. And I had sent you pictures before of Alex, and he took the senior pictures in that special blazer. That blazer means you have gone through the leadership program, and you have given 4 speeches to different organizations to earn that blazer. So you're not just given it, you have to earn it. So he earned his blazer, and we have done several things with local places here and raising money and awareness. And the big part is the awareness for Special Olympics. And then he was given the nod to what's considered Capitol Hill Day. So we got the call, and they wanted Alex to go to Washington, D.C. to go speak with our Congress individuals about Special Olympics and why it's so important for schools and for healthy athletes and how it changed his life. So here we went and traveled and flew off to DC. And I will say I have never walked so much frantically in my life, because you are on a short stint between every senator and from House representatives too. And it's a tight schedule, and it is through their schedule. It is not laid out like this building is next to you. No, you went here to there to there to there and through the tunnels, and off we went and met some amazing individuals that were from other states, plus the leaders of our country. And it was a stressful because he had to be on. He had to deal with a lot of people and a lot of tight spaces and a lot of engaging. And his disability, that is part of it.
Right.
And he kind of like game face. He goes, I'm going to be touched today. Like, he knows that he's going to be touched, but he's okay with that. And we've asked, and he can tell someone not to, but he knows that that's part of, I got to shake someone's hand. I have to be on. I need to make aware that I don't like to do eye contact, which I don't think it's humans, any of us do anyway. So he has to say, okay, I'm on. And he is. And then the next days after, and especially after that 50th, was more so of all the stuff we had to do. It takes him about a week to like decompress it. The travel, the change, it's a different schedule. It's unknowing because even with going to DC, like, oh, they're working on this bill on the floor, it's taking longer, so you might have to readjust everything. So the schedule we're given is very fluid. When we did the 50th, he originally was only doing a few events, and someone really liked him and then invited him to one event. Then he got invited to another event and to another event. And so we did over 10 events in 2 weeks. It was
Wow.
And we were going to do like 2 or 3, and we had a blast, but it was exhausting. I was exhausted, and just the mental load, and but great memories and worth it. But that travel and that leadership experience is going to be a big step. That here he has an intellectual disability, but not all, even atypical high schoolers, has this ability. So the training he's been given, like he went to speech class for college. He's like, been there, because he's given speeches to 500 and 600 people.
Wow.
This shy little kid. And he's like, speech room, 20 people. I got that.
Yeah. Aw, bless his
That's
heart.
today's Special Olympics, It's
That, yeah, that's so awesome that that's part of your guys' life, and that's that it's so developed and it's so expansive and inclusive.
yes.
And I'm happy to hear that they realized, hey, if we're promoting inclusion, we need to be also leading by example. And that's just so cool. And like I said, just the change and the change in Alex, but the change that I've seen in other kids too, because there's that connection that maybe they don't have in
That's what I feel.
School.
Well, Alex says he has to be, and I don't think it's a negative way, because I think you have to be on in your workplace. You have to be on in college. You got to be on your sports team, and you're expected to act a certain way in each of those. But when you're with your girlfriends, it's different. When you're with your family, you're different. Or if I'm with people who like to craft, it's different.
Yeah.
If someone likes band and talks with a whole bunch of band people, it's different. So in Special Olympics, it's people that understand him. Like, he's seen in a crew that's like him. And I don't always think that's a bad thing, because we're all so different. We're never going to be completely alike.
Right.
And we need to allow that moment to have those little moments. But this one crew, he can take a sigh and go, you understand my little tick I have. You understand the way I dance or the way I speak. And there's no judgment. It's just a piece of moment. And that's what Special Olympics for him is like. And it's not that he doesn't have other friends. It's just they understand it a little better or different way.
Yeah. And I can speak to that a little bit. My situation, of course, is different, but having been a special education teacher and a special educator in different roles for so many years, I'm really the only one in my family, in my immediate family, and with my husband's family that does that. And even with my friends now, on my extended family, on my dad's side, we do have a couple of another special educator in the family, and some others who have worked in those fields. But when I met the other master IEP coaches, after I did the mentorship and we had our first weekend conference type thing, I found my tribe.
Mm-hmm.
because everyone understood the language that I was speaking. And I don't mean that necessarily as acronyms that I was using, but it was just like, oh, you get it. Like when they were talking about behavior, and I would talk about, academic issues, or how, writing the IEP, or trying to get,
Right.
team IEP teams to collaborate. It was just this very different sense of belonging.
Yes.
And I certainly feel that I belong in, all of my family situations and with my friends, but I get it. It was that different level, that different connection. So LA says crafts. She loves crafts. So.
I'm all about crafts. My best friend and a very big, I feel like I'm giving a plug. I don't want to do, but she's a very big supporter of Alex in Special Olympics, owns Courage and Grace. And so that's my hideaway.
Yeah.
That's my jam. So
well, and LA is my mom, for if you didn't know that. And she does a lot of the dollar store, shabby chic, Dollar Tree, something online.
Yes.
And, she goes and just makes these amazing crafts. And you don't learn crafts by osmosis, because I do not have that
gift.
No, it did not pass down to me. She was always really good with flowers and flower arranging, and she worked for a florist for a few years. Don't have that skill either. So I have other skills from her, but those two things did not pass down to me.
Well, I do know. Like I said, his main goal is trying to get onto a world game front, and we're hoping that will materialize. There's 2 coming up. Winter Games will be in Russia, Kazan, Russia, at the 2022, hopefully with COVID, be at the end of January. And then that same year, normally they wouldn't, but COVID has decided to, I try to have them 2 years apart, but COVID's decided to COVID. There's no other word for it. And in June of the 5th through the 12th, they will be in Orlando, Florida, which that means they're on home soil.
Oh, nice.
It's for Team USA. So, so most likely we'll have to figure out. I have 2 sons that will be doing high school sports at that time. But my goal, we can make it work, that Alex and I will probably be, and he could be working. So we're trying to figure this out, because I want to be there, to have him volunteer, us volunteer, and go be part of that. So we're all growing up, and our schedules are a lot different now. So we're going to have to figure out how that's going to work. It might be just a few days, but our goal is to be down to Florida and support this, because there's a young individual that I do know that has been given the nod, that is our first Special Olympic athlete that finished an Ironman.
What?
So, yes.
Wait, I think I shared. Does is he from? He's not from Illinois, is he?
No.
Okay.
He has Down syndrome, but it's his name's Chris, and is it Nikic? It's like Nikic. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that at all. But yes, he was one of our first ones to ever finish an Ironman from the Special Olympics. So, and a lot of people don't realize, the Summer Games, Alex is not allowed to really run a marathon yet, because, he's kind of training with Kaskaskia. And so we don't want to do any injuries or damage at that front. But once he hangs up his collegiate life, that's his next goal, is to run a marathon. So I do know one of his goals would be to be on the marathon team for Special Olympics.
So I remember when I was talking to Michael, the gentleman from Australia, he's working on that powerlifting team. And I thought he said there was, he was working towards Germany. Do you know if there are World Games in Germany in the next?
There could be so that could be 26.
Oh, I
That
didn't
could
think
be-
it was that far away. I wonder if maybe
I
I'm
think
just
it's changed
remembering
around
incorrectly.
so much. But I do know. Oh, wait a minute. That could be the U.S. Games is in Orlando. World Games could be in Germany this year. That's U.S. That's nationals. So nationals will be. I'll have to think when World Summer Games for could be Germany.
Yeah, I thought he said it was either 2021 or 2022. And I mean, powerlifting, that I would assume could be either summer or winter.
Powerlifting is considered summer. It's a summer games. And let's see. Yes, it's Berlin. So 23.
Okay.
So that 22 was nationals. So that's
Okay.
there's the national games and then the 2 world games. So nationals will be in Orlando. And then it says Berlin will be 2023.
Cool. Yeah, because I know he still had a lot to go with that and trying to raise the funds for that. And so that's another question I have for you. I presume that Special Olympics is similar again to like your club sports, in that, you know, if you're going to travel, that's on you guys to pay for that.
No. Only for certain ways. So the biggest belt you'll be hearing on my Facebook soon will be the polar plunge. Polar plunge is a lot different this year. It's going to be virtual. Alex and I are trying to figure out what we're going to do on that realm ourselves. But donations will be up till March, and we'll be getting a link and set up and registering on raising money. So the money that is raised for Special Olympics is for all the leadership programs and doing the program. So there's no cost for lodging for your athletes at majority of competitions. I won't say all, but winter and summer games are paid for. You stay either at a hotel on the ski lodge in Galena on Chestnut, or they have hotels down below that you stay at, and they cover the cost and the food during those times of the events.
Oh, that's cool.
Summer games, they do also the same, and they have dorms that they take care of, and there's also food during the times of events, and other companies come in and donate. So usually, and if you compete, if they're not doing like, we do have one of the big state events in Clinton County. We're very privileged that one of the flag footballs was done here for a moment. And more so, we are a regional and sectional area. So we have flag football does that, and basketball usually is here to make it to a state event.
Okay.
So it's all evolving because football has been a new thing. So and that's flag football. And they're working on a unified flag football. So having someone with an intellectual disability and someone who does not, and being able to combine, because basketball, soccer, bocce, esports are all unified programs, and they're trying to add more to work with these champion schools. And those events are taken care of. And a lot of times, like Clinton County was amazing, and our community raising funding to help post our athletes on those events that the states don't take care and pay for and cover. For basketball, our hotels were paid through the agencies. A lot of the agencies try to raise the funding, so those families that couldn't be able to take the time to send off their athletes and be able to pay for it don't have those occurring costs. So
that is so cool. And you know, normally I am here with Fran, and I believe both of her children are part of Special Olympics as well.
And Fran was actually athlete. So I do the winter sports, and Fran does the track and field program. She's a coach for Alex. He runs for track and field out of Clinton County.
Oh, all right. That'd be something I have to talk to Fran about. We haven't
We're
gotten
on
into that
hold
too much.
right now. We're hoping next year. We are hoping. And Allie and Alex have worked together on also big organization is the Torch Run. That is our firefighters, and the Polar Plunges kind of falls under the Torch Run platform. And Allie and Alex have ran with O'Fallon and Shiloh and Swansea's police forces carrying the torch on its way to Illinois' summer games, which is a great sight to see.
Yeah, I just got goosebumps thinking about that. That I remember, I don't know if it was both of you or which one of you posted the pictures of both Allie and Alex with the torch and doing the running. Yeah, that is just such a cool thing. So, well, we've got about 12 minutes. What else are we going to talk about?
Oh, goodness.
Let's talk about our friend Michelle. I haven't seen Michelle in forever. And you're remodeling your house.
Yes, we are. And they're in the midst of it. The bedrooms will eventually be there too, but we're not there yet. Bathrooms and kitchen.
Yeah. So if anybody's remodeling and, you can feel Crystalyn's pain right now because, the house is in upheaval. And I was telling her when she told me right before we got started live that the bathroom was being worked on, I said, that's the worst part about remodeling. The fun part is the demolition if you get to help demolish stuff. Yes. And then the best part is when it's all done and you get to enjoy the new whatever. But yeah, now it's in the part.
Right. We're hoping our kitchen will be our avid sports children will be life on a ball field. Alex has given up softball. They can't talk him back into softball, and Special Olympics was not Alex's sport. If you ever see him there, that means they don't have enough players and they've begged him to play. The sweet, compassionate part of him that he will make sure that the team does right again, but he does not enjoy it for one moment at all. That is not his at all. But Aiden and Anthony do. So we're like, okay, if we do this kitchen remodel while we're mostly gone for the summer, maybe this will work.
There you go. That's good planning.
The concession stands might be our food item that will survive.
Hey, I can attest to having concession stand food for dinner frequently growing up. And as I said, my mom is on this call. She and my dad ran the basketball program for, I don't even know how young I was when they started on it. But yeah, Dad did the time clock and that, kind of the out front stuff. My brother coached for a while. And then my mom was always in charge of the concession stand. So yeah, we would have concession stand popcorn and, candy, not a lot, but some. Yeah. popcorn was my dinner frequently. Because it was popcorn, just, hey, okay, school's over. Yeah. And now the concession stands have so much more in them. I mean, there's so many concession stands that have like dinner food.
Yes.
But Mom, what year did you start? You were in it for 24 years, but what year did you start? Like, how little was I? So yeah, I mean, hopefully, I'm sure your boys will do fine with nachos. Yeah,
they'll be happy. We got the grill. Like we've worked it out. Our big gift was it a Blackstone? So I feel like we're cooking in a concession stand because it's the black flat.
There you go. Yeah.
So we're gonna rock it out. We'll survive.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was probably like 7, 8 years old, somewhere in there when they started. So yeah, pretty much my entire childhood was spent watching hundreds of thousands of basketball games.
That's my life now. Between Special Olympics and the two middles. Asher, not so much. His sport is rockets and NASA. Cool. And so and being dragged to his brother's soccer games and basketball games and all that. We joke that he will be an amazing manager.
There you go.
That will be his deal. But I giggle. My favorite story actually about Special Olympics is because you forget how you're bringing these young children to all these events all the time. My husband traveled quite a lot at the very early phases of their life. And so it was pre-Asher. It was, me and the other two going to all of Alex's events, all of Alex's practices, all of Alex's. And Alex really needed that one-on-one at the moment in some of the earlier phases of life that he did need you to be there. And so I couldn't drop him off like some people could. He had to have someone there. And so they were dragged to basketball games and basketball practices and basketball games and basketball practices the most. And I'll never forget, they had made it to state. So you have to win gold in your regional to make it to state. It's pretty competitive, and you have some amazing teams out there too. Like I said, they base them on their levels. And our Clinton County Cats was high up into the ranking. And Alex started where he was like at the belly button of some of these individuals. I'm talking about little, going up against these 6'4" guys.
Yeah.
And Alex was defense and would steal the ball from them. And we're jumping in front of them like a little jackrabbit. And it was great to watch. But here we go. And we're going to all these competitions. And Anthony's getting into the sporting realm. And he is my sporty child, and Aiden is too. They are sporty spice through and through. And they feel that running is not a sport that's a big competition at our house because they can't do what Alex does. I don't think many people can do what Alex does. He's a rock star.
No, yeah, he's amazing.
Running is, his favorite shirt says like, running is other sports punishment. Or my sport is other sports punishment. So,
that's awesome.
And that's how he feels about it. That's his jam. And he's amazing at it. And so his brothers give them crap back and forth about basketball and running and all this stuff.
Right.
But his running is what makes his defense good on basketball, because he can get in front of those people on a fast break and doesn't lose that energy. He can keep up that level because he runs such a high level all the time. So that's what he's great about on the basketball court. So his brothers, though, were working on all the other things like dribbling and staying in bounds and fouling and stuff like that. So he's had his two younger brothers working on all the other part. And Anthony was 9 years old. So 8, I said earlier, 8 and older, you can be a Special Olympic athlete. Anthony was 9 at the time, and they'd gone to state. The torches are coming in. You're crying anyway. They're announcing all the teams. It's just the energy, and it's just amazing to be that parent in the stand watching this kid that you've had teachers and other people tell you is going to be a failure all his whole life. And they had to win gold to come do this. And he's with his team and all this support. I just cry every time. And so here, all of a sudden, I look over and Anthony's crying. And I'm like, what's the matter? He goes, why am I not good enough? And I went, what? He goes, I'm a good basketball player. I'm like, you are, Bubba. Like, okay, like we're doing Alex's event. We're clapping. Like, this is tears.
Yeah.
Why are you crying? Like, you're not even happy crying. Like, you are emotionally upset. He goes, why am I not good enough, Mama, to be a Clinton County Cat? And I went, okay. I'm like, honey, you don't have an intellectual disability. You can't be a Clinton County Cat. He said, you can support them. You can train with them. And he was practicing to get with them because they needed bodies to move. And I'm like, you don't have a disability. You can't. And he's like, well, does so-and-so have a disability? I'm like, yes. He's like, but Mom, I've never seen him like miss a 3-point shot. He's like, does so-and-so have one? Like, he can dunk the ball. Does so-and-so have one? I'm like, honey, they all do.
Yeah.
He's like, I knew Alex did, but I didn't know the whole team did. And having that moment,
wow,
and that breath, that my son had been raised with all these individuals and saw the sport what they do, not what they don't do.
Yeah.
And I saw them with fresh eyes that our society doesn't always see. And that's why we're so huge fans. And watching it in my own family and watching it, these champion schools, it amazes me to hear that we have where they can go for a high school championship for individuals who do have a disability and don't have a disability, unified, playing together for the same common goal.
Yeah.
It is mind-blowing.
That you told me that story before, and I don't know if you can tell it, but I'm like on the verge of dripping tears. They're in there.
I know. They're in here too, because
it's the wonderment of a child and that honesty,
mm-hmm.
you know, and that pureness of, like you said, they see what these folks are doing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not seeing what might be holding them back from something else.
Yes.
And that's a perfect way to end this show today.
Just see the joy in everyone. Just see the joy. Like that's because that's all he saw was joy every practice.
Yeah. Yep.
And felt so he wasn't good enough. Like that's just, that always gets me.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's just huge. You know, that's honestly, I think, in a sense, what I hope that,
now there's the remodeling.
It's a good thing we're almost done. It's like, goodness, Crystalyn, excuse you.
Perfect timing, I guess.
Yeah, that was awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, why the podcast, why the video podcast, why the, you know, the programs that I offer to school districts and families, why I am just trying to, I want people to have that same approach that Asher had. Asher?
That was Anthony.
Anthony.
Right now, 14-year-old.
Oh my gosh. To have that same look, you know, that same perspective. Look at all these things that these people can do, and go from that approach, because every single person on the planet has things that we can't do.
Exactly.
I can't run a marathon, no matter how. I
no
mean,
way.
It's never going to happen.
No,
you know.
I can, with my new hip, I can cheer Alex down the hill. Like I can just cheer. I can barely ride the bike right now to chase after. That's used to what I have to do. Like, oh, now it's a car. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah. That's crazy. I've tried to become a runner many times because I think it would, you know, just that solitary of, you know, just being in your own thoughts, but I just can never get the breathing down. But anyway, that is what it is. But yeah, you know, and you know, like you and my mom, you do crafts. I can't do crafts, you know. Well, I probably could. I just don't enjoy them.
Find your joy.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has things that we don't do or don't do well or don't do as well as somebody else. So why we focus on that with a certain population, I don't like it, and I want to change it.
Well, I agree. That's why I said why I became a preschool teacher, because I can count to 10 and I can spell cat. I'm dyslexic. So and I was good in sports to a certain point with my legs and whatever. And I was great in school, but I had to do so much stuff in the background to be good at it, because numbers and letters just like to go, woo. And, you know, they just do that.
Right.
And most people have never had an idea about that. But I'm like, Alex, spell. He has a great memory with spelling. Like, please spell that for me. Like, yes, he does have an intellectual disability. Yes, he has autism. But the boy can spell like no tomorrow. And I'm like, can you spell this word for me?
Well, we all have our strengths too. But hey, we're coming up on exactly 1 hour, and I can't move it over to IGTV if it's more than an hour. So thank you for stepping in and sharing today with me. Fran, thank you for taking care of another friend that you needed to take care of today. And we will see you all again next time.
Bye.